thank you for letting us come to your home. It's very nice. This is the first podcast.
Our first traveling episode.
We're
taking Sips and Clips on the road.
Thanks for coming all the way here.
Of course.
It's around the corner for me.
Yeah, Michael had an easy drive. Usually it takes him like maybe a half hour to get to my house. So I'm sure today he was like...
Yeah, 5 minutes.
So you're happy about this?
Oh, it was easy. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is great. This is
Lian's
chill.
the only one that's pissed off.
Yeah, Lian's like, bah, bah, I gotta drive. I gotta cross Laurel Canyon. From Minnesota to New Zealand, from flatbeds and moving trucks to VFX count sheets, from babysitting the artist formerly known as Prince to dropping some Star Wars and Star Trek cutting bay lore. On the episode today, we have Marty Kloner for a masterclass in the modern VFX editor's journey. We get into his path from the Midwest to overseas work, how the new VFX editor classification is reshaping the job, practical ways for young AEs to break into the role, and how Marty keeps family at the center while thriving in editorial.
All right, well, welcome to this episode of Sips and Clips. My name is Lian McFalls.
My name is Michael Schusterman.
And as we said, today we are traveling. We have...
On the road again.
We have come to our guest's house, Marty Kloner. He is a VFX editor, and he's been on countless shows. Man, it's pretty stacked. You got a lot of good stuff on there.
It's because I'm old.
You've seen some shit.
Yeah. You're wise, though. You're so wise.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Wise.
Marty's here to portray onto us some knowledge.
Words
to
of
impart
wisdom.
Words of wisdom to the young and naive.
Marty doesn't seem too confident about
Don't get your hopes up.
But we're going to start with what we're sipping on, as we do. So we'll start with the guest. Marty, what are you sipping on?
It's a drink called Hi-Yo.
Hi-Yo.
It's peach and mango seltzer, but it's got adaptogens in it, I think.
Okay. What does that mean?
I don't know. It's supposed to be like an alternative to actually drinking.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't felt any effects.
Is there alcohol in it?
No.
Oh, okay. It's just supposed to be like...
yes, naturally.
Okay, it's supposed to naturally
Supposed to loosen you up naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's only got about 100 milligrams of THC in it, just to really get you
Probably
going.
what it really is, right? Yeah.
This is from Whole Foods.
Okay, but it's called Hi-Yo.
Yep.
H-I-Y-O. Hi-Yo. Hi-Yo.
I am drinking my second addiction in life, which is a Diet Coke. Which today is actually only my first Diet Coke, but I am on my I did have a PSL today. So
I was going to ask
for
because
those keeping track at home, I'm only at 3 so far.
Wow. I am drinking Tivana. I think that's how you spell it. Tehava, which is just unsweetened tea, and it's peach flavored. Peach black tea. That's about it. There's nothing special about it. I've been drinking it because it's supposed to be iced, essentially just iced tea. And we have them a lot at work. And then I end up bringing it home because I never finish it.
That one's from work on Friday?
This is from work. Maybe Friday, maybe last week at some point.
At some point you acquired it?
At some point I acquired it.
And don't you also have did I not give you a Diet Coke or no?
I don't like Diet Coke.
Oh. How do you not like Diet Coke? What's wrong with you? Don't you live in Los Angeles? This city runs on Ozempic and Diet Coke now. Haven't you learned?
Not me, no. Does it look like I need Ozempic and Diet Coke, Michael?
I feel like everybody needs Diet Coke at least.
All right. Well, we can get into it. Marty, why don't you tell us your story? Tell us how you got interested in film. We can start at the beginning and where you're from and how you kind of found your way here.
I'm from Minnesota. For college, I went to the University of Michigan, and I was studying graphic design. Shortly after starting college, I realized I liked doing graphic design, but it wasn't what I wanted to do for my life. And so I got all of the electives out of the way and started taking acting classes and film classes. And I got into a graduate film workshop class the last semester I was at Michigan. I don't know how, but I wasn't a graduate student. And when I was done, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And that professor said, you should apply to grad film school.
Okay.
He said, you got everything that they want. You got acting experience, you have graphic design, you have photography, you have film history. And so that's what I did. I applied to NYU and UCLA, and that was it. NYU accepted me, UCLA rejected me.
Oh, God.
Simple choice.
Yeah.
Went to NYU. After film school, I moved back to Minnesota to finish cutting my thesis film. And I rented a flatbed in New York and threw it in the back of a truck with the rest of my stuff and moved back to Minnesota because I figured I was never going to get that film cut at NYU because this was back in the film days. So you had a cutting room for 3 hours. And you couldn't keep your trims hanging in the trim bin. So you had to take your trims out, hang them up, cut, and then stop in enough time to clean it all up again for the next person. And I thought, no, there's no way. And so
feel like
I moved back to Minnesota. And when I moved back, Prince was shooting a movie. And I disliked editing so much that I hired somebody to cut my thesis film for me.
Oh, wow. Why don't you just stay in New York to kind of finish it?
I didn't have enough room in my apartment was a studio.
Okay.
And it was expensive. So I moved back to Minnesota and I was living in a 1,200 square foot apartment with a breakfast nook that was like perfect for the flatbed. It was perfect little cutting room. And I hired this guy to cut my thesis film. And Prince's movie came into town. And I tried to get a job on it. I couldn't get a job.
Were you just looking for anything on it? Okay.
PA,
Was this Purple Rain or something?
Graffiti Bridge. And the guy I hired, he got a job as an assistant editor on the movie.
Oh, my God.
And he said, listen, why don't you just come be my intern in the cutting room and I'll take money off of what I'm going to charge you to cut your thesis film. And to make a really long story short, I went from being the intern making $100 a week, which was basically for gas to get to Paisley Park every day. By the time I was off of it, I was a union assistant editor here in LA.
Oh, holy shit.
I hadn't moved here yet.
How long were you, I guess, on this film?
I think it was 9 or 10 months at least.
So in about the span of 9 or 10 months, you went from being an intern to a union assistant.
Yes.
Wow.
When we finished production and we were continuing to cut in Minnesota, they bumped me up to, I think, $500 a week, but I was still an intern. And then Warner Brothers took all the assistants and the film and had them come back here to LA and left Prince and his editor and her first and me in Minnesota to cut on this machine called a CMX 6000, which you cut on laser discs. So it was not nonlinear. You had a whole wall of what they called modules, but they were basically laserdisc players. And you had one for picture, one for sound. So we worked for a while. It was like competing cutting rooms. But I think the reason I got as far as I did is because Prince had this habit of picking the greenest guy in the group and only talking to him. And I was that guy. I was the guy who he would talk to. Part of my job was to sit in the cutting room with him and the editor and to talk to him so he would so that she could cut. I had some pretty...
It's kind of amazing, though.
Yeah, I had some pretty interesting conversations.
Your
with
job
him.
you just get to talk to Prince.
Babysit Prince.
Just to let the editor cut and do the work.
Yeah, I think until recently, that was the most politically messed up movie I've ever been on.
Wow.
And that was back in 1989, I think.
Wow.
Politically as in the content or in just the dealing with the personalities?
The personalities.
So then Warner Brothers, when they took everybody back to LA, did they also, I'm guessing, hire another editor? So they really were...
5 editors.
5 editors?
Yes, and 10 assistants.
At the same time where people just went through it?
At the same time.
Oh.
One of them was a supervising editor.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Rumor has it, Prince said, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to fire all of them and you're going to hire my editor back, or I'm going to take my recording contract elsewhere. Now, I don't know that for a fact.
Wow.
And so that is what happened. When that happened, the editor called and said, do you want to come to LA for 2 to 4 weeks to finish up the movie? I said, sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you then got to LA.
This is how I got in the union.
Okay, yeah.
So after working there for about a week or so, the union called the cutting room to talk to me and said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm an assistant editor. They said, well, you need to be union. What did I know?
I was gonna say, did you not know?
Did you
at
know
this
about the
point?
union and all that
Okay.
stuff? Wow.
I mean, this is probably like your first time getting out to LA and all that.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, I'm only supposed to be here 2 to 4 weeks. And so they kind of just let it go because, it wasn't worth it for 2 to 4 weeks. After the 12th week, they got mad. And now I was not supposed to be there for that long. But they basically forced the production to either fire me or get me into the union.
Wow.
They did try to fire me first. I think I got fired on that movie 3 times. Not because of anything I did, but just who I was aligned with.
Oh my God.
And yeah, long story short, I got into the union. And the following week, I was in the union and I worked a 111-hour week. There's 168 hours in a week. And I had 1 day off that
Oh
week.
my God.
And until...
Wait, what? How? Oh my God.
Until 2011, that was the biggest paycheck I ever made in my life. For 1 week's worth of
Wow.
work.
I can imagine. Oh my God.
111. I don't even know how that's. You slept for 2 hours a day?
There were some days I didn't sleep, and, or I'd go home for 3 hours and come back again.
Mortifying. You don't remember your most worked week?
No,
That's
I
not
don't.
burned into your memory. I feel like it's so scarring. I'm not like.
And I thankfully haven't had too many.
You've worked a
long
7-day
weeks.
week.
I actually haven't. I think I've always gotten off on Sunday.
You don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want that, and you don't want to ever have to claim the 28-day rule thing.
Yeah.
It's 21.
You know,
now it's 21.
actually,
They lowered it.
No, it is 21. Sorry, it is 21.
Yeah.
But they don't have to do it till after the 28th day. They don't have to start paying you. And you have to let them know.
Yes.
It's not their job to keep track. And then it's so not worth it.
What is it, time and a half?
So
Something
not
like
worth
that?
it's well at the time, I don't know what it is now, but every day after you would pass that time, they have to pay you 1/4 of your salary at scale, not at the deal that you made, but at scale more each day.
Than that
Wow.
day.
Yeah.
Each day.
I did work about 14 days straight.
Oh,
on a-
okay.
On a thing.
On Don't Look Up, I hit the 21-day limit 3 times.
3 times.
3 times. So on the 22nd day, you're forced to take a day off. At least that was what I was told.
Oh yeah, but if you go 28 days, then you have to get 2 days off in a row.
Is that
I think? Yeah,
So I
2
hit
days.
I hit that 3 times, and then on the creator, I hit that once.
that's one thing you want to take from my being wise. Don't work the overtime if you don't have
If you don't,
to.
yeah.
Wise words over here, Marty. Yes.
Have a life outside of this lovely job.
So
Yeah.
you've had you've had a very long career. So I do feel like I want to point out The Mighty Ducks. It points out to me as like one of my favorite movies as a kid.
But see, that
great.
was shot in Minnesota, so I was
That
still living in
totally-
Minnesota.
Oh, that totally makes sense. That's brilliant. I want to know when you hopped from, it looks like you made the big jump to VFX assistant in 2000 or around the turn of the millennium. I'm just wondering what that looked like for you. I guess to try to encapsulate that in as short a story as you can.
I was working on Vertical Limit in New Zealand. We were supposed to be there 3 months. We ended up being there 7 months because of the weather, which is
Wow.
really a bummer to be in Queenstown, New Zealand for
Oh my
7 months
God.
instead of 3. I wanted to move there.
Yeah,
know, I wanted to get on
everyone's
Lord of the
dream is to move
Rings.
there. Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
get Lord of the Rings, and I wanted to work on all 3 of the movies.
Oh, because that must have
Yeah.
been
Same time.
That must have been scaling up at the time, or it was
Yes.
happening at the time.
It just started after we started. They started.
Oh wow!
So after you came here and you got in the union, you're now like an assistant. Did you stay here or did you go? Okay.
Oh, you went back.
I went back. I worked on a couple of movies.
How did you work on movies in How were you finding movies in Minnesota?
They were small movies. They were, one of them
Mighty
was
Ducks,
a Dario
though.
Argento horror movie. You ever heard of him?
No.
Yep.
Cassidy's laughing.
Cassidy must know what it is.
Yeah.
What film was that? Is that Mallrats?
It was called Dario Argento's Trauma.
So in all of these shows that you're finding in Minnesota, were you just PAing essentially, or did you assist on any of these, or they just all production?
In Minnesota, well, I didn't. I was an assistant on 2 movies, and then I think I moved here with a girlfriend.
Okay. Did you move here because now at this point you knew you wanted to be?
Well, I
More
knew
involved.
when I got that second paycheck, after working that 111-hour week, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, this may not be what I want to do, but I could do this for a while.
Okay.
I can live with this.
Yeah.
And here I am still doing it. But when I made the switch to visual effects editor, that's when that aha moment where, okay, now I start to feel like this is what I want to do, or this is what I'm good at, and this is what I have fun doing. Even when I was an assistant, I loved doing sound. It wasn't the bookkeeping part of it that I liked, although the unfortunate part of it is I'm good at that stuff. And, that's what kept getting me one job to the next. What got me the jump, believe it or not, from assistant or Avid assistant editor to visual effects editor is when I went to Queenstown, I decided to build a FileMaker database for Codebook. Because back in those days, you had to get the film telecinied. And when you were that far away, you wanted to make sure that it was telecinied correctly.
I actually don't know what telecine means.
They take the actual film and convert it. They don't convert it. They actually shoot it.
Oh, they're
digital.
like scanning it. You mean? Oh.
Well,
yes.
it wasn't
I do know because I've seen data cine before on like machines and stuff. So that's a telecine. Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay.
So I sat with my, my computer and the FileMaker for Dummies handbook and a really basic codebook, FileMaker codebook for 6 days straight. I said, I'm going to learn how to do this. And I came up with this database that worked well. And the visual effects department at the time on Vertical Limit were also just starting to use FileMaker for their end of it. And so when it came to us needing a visual effects editor, the VFX supervisor told Sony, we don't want someone new. We want you to bump him up. And
Wow.
I was already doing some basic comps, but the really basic at the time. And so that's how it happened.
Wow.
I did both jobs while I was in Queenstown. And then when we came back to LA, they hired somebody to be the Avid assistant, and I was the full-fledged visual effects editor. And the same thing happened on the next movie with Rain of Fire.
So obviously you felt more compelled towards VFX then
Absolutely.
at this point than assistant editing.
Was that just because it was a visual? I mean, was it scratching that like graphic design, like you get to be a creative
I
kind
think
of
so.
thing, but you also get to be in the cutting room and all that?
Yeah, and I feel like I have a more of a creative voice in the process of working on a movie. On some movies, not all. You need to be a good hack when you're a visual effects editor. Like people come up with ideas. Sometimes visual effects, sure, they're sort of planned in pre-production, but not really fleshed out that well. And really, they rely on you to come up with something to hack together to use just so they can cut with it at least. But sometimes those hacks become
The basis for what the actual shot looks like. Yeah.
And it doesn't happen a lot, but it's very rewarding when something I did that wasn't planned shows up in the final.
Yeah.
And if you get good enough at it, they come to you to solve those problems.
Like, how should this look? Or
One really funny, in Rise of Skywalker, in that final battle, I can't remember Kerry Russell's character's name, but she flies in and she blows up a starship all by herself.
with the ship, she like drives through it. You mean?
Yeah, she drives through it, and then Bubba Frick jumps up in her lap, basically, and does his ta-da. Well, JJ came to me originally. Bubba Frick was supposed to die on the planet he lived on, and he said, "We don't want to kill him. Everybody loves him so much. We got to save him somehow." He says, "Is there any way you can put him somewhere in that final battle?" And so
Wow.
I don't know if you remember when he was rewiring C-3PO, he does that ta-da thing.
Yeah.
So I put him in Kerry Russell's lap, basically, in
Wow.
her cockpit. And he came to see it, and he was like on the floor laughing. He's like, "That's it. That's
Wow,
perfect."
that's great.
But I'm taking credit for saving Bubba Frick's life.
There you
That's so
go.
funny.
Well, actually, while we're kind of talking about it, I want to know what the workflow is, I guess, for a VFX editor. Like, I know they do storyboard previs. Like, can you just kind of explain what those stages are?
You mean once we're in post or from the beginning?
I guess from the beginning. Yeah, because I actually don't really know, like, what's the difference between previs and postvis?
Well, post-vis is when they take the actual plates that we shot and they animate on those plates, as opposed to previs is they're creating everything.
I see.
The background plates, the actors, everything.
Do you have a hand in that, or is that normally like an animatics editor or anything like that? Like on the
Previs or post-vis?
previs? Like how often are you coming onto a show?
It's funny because in all the shows I've ever done, I've never been brought on early to cut the previs. Usually the editor who does that, but I know of visual effects editors who have done that.
And that's just animators that are making this previs? Like, you guys aren't doing that, are you?
It's like Third Floor would do it.
Okay.
There's a lot of directors, though, that don't like previs. But there are other other directors who they shoot exactly what the previs looks like. I worked on Son of the Mask, which is
iconic.
The Mask Part 2.
Yeah.
When I started that movie, they had a ton of previs, and the director shot the plates exactly like the previs. So I said to the previs people, I said, is there any way you can give me these animated characters on blue screen? And I had a great time doing the comps because they fit perfectly into the plates.
Yeah.
I had them do a little bit of manipulation, but they look great. But the post-viz comes after. And post-viz is usually, or has traditionally been done only with QuickTime plates. You just export a QuickTime plate and they work off of that. What we get back from the vendor starts with concept ideas and then blocking and then animation, and then they start with the comps.
Okay. They, as in the vendors, are starting with the comps. Then all of these steps would then allow you to kind of, like the director or whoever, to like adjust anything needed. Is that so that when, you're not too far down the line if something needs to be changed?
Yeah, and I think that contracts are built around, you get a certain amount of versions of blocking, certain animation. I think.
Yeah.
I think there's, that can change quickly because some shots obviously are much easier to get to the final shot than others.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to ask you, because we mentioned earlier that, you started by doing like a FileMaker code book. I'm curious, a lot of the visual effects editors I meet now, like, their big thing is like how they do their code book and how they set it up. Do you have a code book you inherited, one you built, one that is like yours? And then I'm also curious, when you come onto a movie, I feel like oftentimes, like, people come to a movie and they say, oh, our movie has 1,200 visual effects shots. Like, they kind of have a ballpark number of what comes in. When you come into a movie, does a visual effects supervisor sit down with you and say, that's a VFX shot, that's a VFX shot, that's a VFX shot? Or is it the other way around where you're going through the shots and being like, that's a VFX shot, that's a VFX shot, that's like, who is making the assertion as to what is getting added to this code book?
It's definitely both, because they don't know what editorial has added to the shot to make it a visual effects shot. But in some cases, we as the visual effects editors aren't sure what visual effects work may need to be done to a shot that's already been planned.
Gotcha.
So the way that it normally works is like the editor and director finish the sequence and say, okay, you can have it. Then I would sit down with the visual effects supervisor and producer, and we'd mark all the visual effects shots. And they'd say, oh, no, this isn't a visual effects shot. And I say, well, yeah, it is, because now it's a split screen.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So as far as the database goes, I built the code book from scratch. I got somebody else's to look at to get an idea.
It's not the original one from 2000, is it?
It's there's stuff in it now that was started back then.
Wow.
Mine came from Vertical Limit.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
I was going to ask if that was the same code book that you used.
It's pretty much the same. I mean, it's, it's sharpened up a lot since then, but that's where I feel like that's where my database is slightly different than a lot of other people's. Is I think that some of the layouts are much more readable because I have graphic design training.
Yeah.
But the way I built it is I had the code book and then the visual effects database came later. So I decided to keep them separate so that if regular editorial wanted to use the code book that I was already building, they could use it without getting into my visual effects database. So
right.
It's nice when we write up shots, I have to type in the slate and take and the camera, and it pulls the shot from
the regular code book.
Yeah. And the visual effects database also tells me things like, if I type in and out, it will tell me whether it's okay if I've pulled up the right daily slate. It won't let me create a pull unless
the time codes are
correct.
Right. It's like,
wow.
You accidentally are pulling, like, because it'll say this time code doesn't exist in this shot or whatever.
Correct.
It's basically telling you, like, you have one of these things.
Or I don't have enough, when I pull the handles, it'll say, nope, you don't have enough on the tail. Or it'll tell me, no, you can't use that name because you already named something that. So it says illegal name.
You have like a time code calculator built into the back of this thing? How are you doing math like that?
I didn't build the visual effects database from scratch. These visual effects guys that were on Vertical Limit, they helped me build the initial database. And for years, I
Because
kept
that
going.
time code math is complicated and gets really irritating really fast.
Yeah,
especially
and
like
some of
coding
it is a little weird.
Yeah.
Like doesn't always work correct.
if it's
but
like
most
drop
of
frame
it
or
does.
something like that. And then,
No, that's all. Listen, these guys were geniuses. I worked on a movie after that shot on 3, 4, and 8 perf. And the database
Wow.
calculated all of them.
Oh my God, that's
oh my
amazing.
God, this sounds like a nightmare.
It was Twilight.
New Moon.
New Moon. Yeah. On that movie, I was hired because of the database.
Oh wow, I gotta brush up on my FileMaker.
You need to know the basics of FileMaker, and then you need to have a FileMaker guru.
Without a doubt.
Because what happened with that VFX database for years is that more and more things would come up, and I'd call him and say, "Hey, Mark, how do we get the database to do this?" And he'd figure it out.
You mentioned turnovers a few times, and I don't think that we asked Derek
No, I don't think
this.
so either.
I was wondering what's the process for video.
Derek who?
Derek Gruen.
Just kidding, Derek.
Marty, both
All
Marty
the VFX
and
editors have
Derek.
beef. I'm going to bring them all on and we'll give you guys all boxing gloves.
Derek's
and go at it.
great.
Derek's great. Both of them worked with me on Batman, which is why they agreed to be on this show with us. But I wanted to know
And you couldn't have worked with a funnier visual effects team, right?
Yeah, that you guys are great. Every now and then we
Is
see
that your
you at
moniker, the
lunches.
funniest visual effects editorial team in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Turnovers.
Yes.
Could you explain to our dear listeners what the process of turning over
For a
VFX
turnover.
shot is?
Well, we have to go through the cut, and we have to give each shot that's going to be turned over a visual effects number that consists of usually letter abbreviations have to do with a visual effects sequence name, and they're different in all movies. You know, some are 2 letters, some are 3-letter codes.
And are you choosing these names?
No.
Okay.
Usually that's done way in pre-production. It has a habit of changing, when you get to post.
I'm just curious, are there, because like when you're slating stuff, they never slate stuff I or O, right? Because it looks too similar to a 1 or a 0.
Well, they don't all follow that.
That's true. This is true. But generally, as a rule of thumb, we like to avoid I and O. Normally, as a rule of thumb, you're supposed to do that.
Exactly.
I'm curious for VFX sequence codes. Are there words or phrases you don't use for that exact same reason? Like,
You mean when they name the actual
Yeah, I'm just
sequences?
curious.
No. And usually we don't get to name anything until way down in post. There's a reshoot or something, and you say, can we just create a new sequence name here? And there's a whole bunch of different ways people name shots. Like on this show, it's simple. It's 3 letters and 4 numbers, no underscore, which is a huge deal when you're on a big show to not have to type that underscore. It's one
Move a lot
stroke
faster.
that you can. But some shows want a 3-digit scene number, then a 3-digit abbreviation, and 4 digits of numbers after that. And that's a long visual effects
a
number.
long idea,
But the
yeah.
advantage to that is you can sort them and they'll chronologically show up in a list.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but generally when you're numbering these, you guys try to stay in chronological order. Is that right? But you might skip maybe 10 numbers in
20
case a shot-
usually.
So you go by 20s in case there's a shot that is added
Comes in between. Yeah. And, it never works out that way.
No.
That neatly, but
Generally, that's what you try
that's
to
what
do.
you try to do, yes.
Yeah. Hey, it's Lian here. We wanted to take a moment to shout out a friend of the show, Andrew Freeman, and his brand new editing app. This isn't a sponsored plug. We just love highlighting the awesome tools being built within the editorial community. It's called Watch My Edit, and you can find it on the Mac App Store. It works with any NLE and basically takes the stress out of waiting around for exports. The app detects when a new video export starts, tracks its progress, and even emails you when it's done. It can automatically upload your export to Frame.io, YouTube, or Vimeo, and then send you another email confirming the upload went through. Best part? All your data stays local on your machine, so there are no privacy concerns. Check it out. Watch My Edit by Andrew Freeman, now on the Mac App Store. So after the IDs are done.
After the IDs are done, then usually we'll make a sequence reference for the vendor who's going to do the sequence with visual effects titles. There's a great website to be able to make, with the subcap tool, to make titles for the entire sequence all at once.
And when you're saying you're making sequences, do you mean like you're kind of giving them a sequence with a scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if it's a couple of scenes, whatever, if whatever's being turned over.
Okay.
We'll number it first, then we'll make a quick time with every shot that is going to be a visual effects shot numbered. And then they usually bid based on that sequence rough. But in the meantime, we start writing up the shots to turn them over. So what that means is pulling the digital files and having them converted into EXRs or DPXs for the vendor to use.
This may be pedantic, but Lian and I know what a pull is, but for people who don't know, what is a pull?
Oh, okay. Every movie has a place that holds your film, whether it be digital or shot on film, whatever.
The original media.
The original media, yeah, that they shot on the set. And we, with our database help, type in the in time code and out time code of every shot, every element for that shot, because, most visual effects shots have balls and charts that are shot with them or a clean plate. So you may have 3-4 elements per visual effects shot. And if you have a good database, it just spits out an easy list that you can just upload, and it's all done automatically. Like you just upload your CSV file and everything's automated. The house that's holding your film pulls it and puts it somewhere in the cloud for the vendor that you need to pull it for.
They're pulling just the frames that you're sending. So instead of
They're pulling and converting them
to the EXRs or DPXs.
Yeah.
So instead of being like, if we have a camera A001, C014 or something, instead of pulling all 10 minutes of that shot, it's only going to pull the 97 frames that need to go to ILM or Motion or whatever vendor is going to be doing it.
Yeah,
basically.
and the cool thing is you can upload a text file pull, and let's say 6 weeks down the line, the visual effects department comes to you and says, hey, those shots you turned over to ILM, they need to go to Weta now. Instead of having to redo everything in our database, I can just make a copy of that, assuming the shots are the same length. I can just, even if they're not, we can revise the count sheets and send those, but I can make a copy of it, just say the vendor's now Weta. In an hour, those are ready for Weta to download from the cloud.
Wow.
And nowadays, I guess I'm sure it's dependent on each show, but if it's going to an institutional vendor like Weta or ILM, you're not just tagging it in this software like Weta, or are you sending them a link, like a whatever drive link or something? Or...
You mean being the visual effects editor?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to do with, once we've uploaded the actual text file, the house that you're hiring, the service that you're hiring,
they
to do
go
the pulls,
and pull it from company 3 or whoever.
They pull it and they let the vendor know this is ready for you.
Oh, so they're taking care of it all on their end.
Usually.
So really, you're just sending like the Daly's house or whatever, the list of shots that they just need to grab.
Yeah.
And then saying
they're doing
this needs to go to
everything
Weta, and then they're sending it to Weta or ILM or whoever.
And usually they go to your visual effects department and whatever vendor they're supposed to go to, so that if the visual effects department has a big enough server, they have a record of everything that's been pulled.
Okay.
I'd also like to ask, because I don't think we talked to Derek about this, but when I was starting filmmaking years ago, like every original After Effects tutorial and everything I followed was all making DPXs. Nowadays, everybody seems to be using EXRs, and they're always like, oh, well, EXR is so much better. And I don't know that I've really had the capacity to understand the difference between the two or why one is better than the other. I'm just wondering if you could explain that at all.
You should have asked Derek.
Oh, he knows. You don't know. That means you don't know.
I don't really. I think that EXRs.
It's like more data efficient.
I think that's something that
really
ILM. I think it's something that ILM came up with originally, and the first movie I had to pull EXRs instead of DPXs. It was never explained to me really
the difference.
Oh my God.
that well. It's got more information. I think should have asked a younger visual effects editor.
Marty's giving this, I guess, face.
Yeah, I do know it's better. But
I've heard it's better.
It's better, guys. It's all you need to know is that EXRs are better than DPXs.
and I think at one point ILM was the only one that
Could use
could
it
use them, but
because it was proprietary to them.
yeah, I think so. But
So funny.
that's changed.
So after you've sent these polls and then you've given the QuickTime over, that's essentially it, right? Or is there anything else?
The count sheets.
After that? The count sheets. So can you also explain what that is as well? Yeah.
Well, the count sheet has most of the information that the vendor needs to start working on the shot, especially frame count wise. We give them the in and the out. Time code wise, we tell them, okay, this shot is 50 frames long. We have to tell them how long the shot is because on the count sheet, they'll see how many frames were pulled, but sometimes there's speed effects. So they won't, they'll think, well, the shot's supposed to be that long. No, it's not. It's got a 200% speed effect. So it needs to be half of that.
So you're getting 48 frames, but it's actually 24 in real time or whatever.
And then, on the count sheet, we also have to adjust the handles if there's a speed effect, and give them more handles or they won't have enough. Variable speed effects are pain in the butt, but it gives them all that information. If it's a variable speed effect, it gives them the breakdown on comp frames 1001 to 1009 at 100%, 1010 to 1020 ramp up from 100% to 300%. So there's all the VFX notes, and that's what mainly comes from us is those kind of things. And we'll say, okay, this is a blue screen or this is a set extension, but we don't really go into detail about what is supposed to happen in the set extension. Or, we'll say beauty fix. We may not specify what the beauty fix is because that stuff comes from the VFX department.
I see.
And then what else is on the count sheet? On our count sheets is a first and last frame. So there's a representative first and last frame of what's in the cut. And that originally was designed when we were scanning and not pulling. We were scanning the negative so that the neg person had a visual representation of what they were supposed to see when they were pulling these shots. So if they looked at a shot and said, this doesn't look anything like what's on this count sheet, they know something's wrong. It's also now a built-in sort of safety for our database. We type in the in and out, we pull these frames as we're writing shots up, and then we import them into the database. And we name them by the time code they're sitting on and their digital file name. So when you import them into the database, they should find the record they're supposed to be in.
And populate.
Yeah. And so when we're all done writing everything up and importing all these JPEGs, if there's no JPEGs, something is wrong. We either typed in the wrong numbers or pulled the wrong frame. It's a nice double check.
So when you're chasing the cut, as we like to say, which essentially just means for people who don't know, the editor is going through reel 2. You could tell that they made a change. They move on to reel 3. VFX editors and assistant editors will go back through that cut and see what they changed, see if there's anything that's off sound-wise, dialogue-wise, etc. So when you're chasing the cut and you see that VFX has changed, you're updating those count sheets. You're not doing like pulls unless it's needed.
Unless it's needed, which a lot of times it is. But one reason on every show I'm on, I want a 32 frame handle pull is to try to avoid having to do a repull.
Okay,
Because we have to give them what number to start numbering the frames at, too, on the count sheet. And when you need to repull and add to the head, it's really a pain in the butt. I mean, to the tail, it's not so bad, but you have to count backwards from 977.
If the start changes.
Yeah, if you have 32 frame handles and you want all of their comps to start at 1001 for the 8-frame head handle, you got to start the first frame has to be 977. and they number from there. But if they add to the head, you have to figure out mathematically where the new start needs to be.
Jeez.
Because in theory, they've already completed some work on the shot.
Right.
And they don't want the frame numbers to change.
Two questions. When you say 32 frame handles, are you saying 16 on the head and 16 on the tail, or 32 on the head and 32 on the tail?
32 and 32. Because, these days, it doesn't cost you per frame. It's a service. So why not pull 32 frames? Yeah. Like 16 frame handles you're just asking for trouble, I think. The other thing on these count sheets, when we make the changes, there at the bottom of our count sheets is a change list. So every time a new change is made, you hit a button and it creates a new entry, and you type in what the change is. You give the old counts because now they have the new counts at the top of the count sheet. So that's what those are for. And there's count sheets, at least from us, there are count sheets for each element that is in the cut. And then there is a master that you look at, and it'll show you how many elements were pulled for that particular visual effects shot. Yeah. And so that's part of the turnover. They'll get both of those.
Okay. The count sheet and
They'll get a master and an element.
I'm also curious because a lot of the conversations we have with people who worked in the film days was really this awareness of cost, right? Because like every time you go back to the negative, every time you had to get a new daily printed, like that costed money. And so there's just this real element of like, trying to save money and trying not to do unnecessary work. Is that something you still have to consider? Like if you're making a pull request to Company 3, eFilm, or anybody to like send this stuff off, are they charging you per frame pulled, or is it just a service that comes with the show?
It's just a service now.
So you don't have to necessarily make sure that it's like, oh, does this absolutely have to go? It's like, that's not something that weighs on your conscience anymore, basically.
It's more on the vendor side now.
Yes. Every frame you pay them to do.
Yeah, making them like, oh, the take was changed, so you have to start over again.
So I want to know, you're doing all of this as the VFX editor. What is the assistant VFX editor doing? What are their jobs? How are they different from yours?
There is no such thing anymore.
No.
They have a new classification now, right?
It is?
Well, if someone, I might not get this exactly right, but if someone is spending more than 50% of their day working in visual effects, they need to be paid as the scale rate for a visual effects editor, which means there is no such thing as an assistant visual effects editor unless you have somebody who is working with you but spending less than 50% of their time. The actual title doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Which is kind of a good and a bad thing. It's good in the sense that if they thought, if production thought they could just get a regular assistant to do the visual effects editor job and not pay them the rate, then that's not right.
Yeah.
But if you want to teach somebody how to become a visual effects editor, it's tough with those rules.
Mm-hmm.
But, colloquially still in a cutting room, you may still have one visual effects editor who's quote unquote in charge of the department and then is delineating tasks, right?
Right.
So to that extent, you still might have a lead.
Well, okay. So on this movie, for instance, this would be normally like a dream job for somebody like me because I don't have time. I'm like another vendor on this show. I'm doing these comps. And I don't have time to do turnovers. I don't have time to cut shots in. So on this show, the other two visual effects editors are importing the vendors' comps, cutting them in, turning over shots when we need to, and coming to me for answers that they can't answer. Why I hack comps together.
So in that context, I guess it's not visual effects editor and assistant visual effects editor. Is it like lead visual effects editor and then visual?
I guess, but the person I'm working on this movie with, his name is Carrie. Carrie and I have worked together since 2005, not in the capacity of, visual effects editor and visual effects assistant, but we've been working together. He was a PA when I first met him. And on the second Star Trek movie is when he became my assistant. We write up shots together. That's another thing that I don't think a lot of visual effects editors do. We do it when we can do it. Is I'll do all the stuff on the Avid. So I'll mark up the cut, for turned over shots. So visually they can see in the timeline that a shot's a different color, so they know it's turned over. I'll pull the JPEGs and he does the database stuff. And we just go through the cut and do it that way. And it's become so second nature to us that we can have conversations about something else while we're writing the shots up and not talk about the cut at all. So, it's great.
On Doug's episode, he also mentioned that there are also some shots that probably go to different, like one shot might go to two vendors.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah. So like, because one company might be good at wire removal and one company might be better at like CGI.
Yeah, or
whatever it is.
One vendor was contracted to do one special effect or visual effect.
The de-aging or something.
Yeah, or I'm trying to think of a good example.
Well, I brought de-aging only because like Lola famously does a lot of the
Right.
de-aging stuff. So Lola does beauty visual effects, but they don't do background logo removal. They don't do set extensions.
No, right.
So, Lola may be doing beauty and then ILM may be doing the backgrounds.
This movie I'm on has special creatures, so Weta's doing those, but a lot of the magic that's in it is ILM.
Okay,
But sometimes both of those things are in one shot.
Right. So then in those cases, you have to do the pulls for both
Yes.
all,
And the count sheet has both of them listed on it.
right.
And a lot of times one vendor's waiting for the other one to finish.
Oh, okay.
I guess I'm not to get too into the nitty gritty here, but with stuff like that where one asset is going to one vendor and one asset is going to another, are you just uploading this to your database and then a visual effects producer later is coming by and explaining to you who's going to what? Or is that something you already know? You know that this character goes to that vendor and that background goes,
Usually.
And you're logging it yourself.
Usually, unless they change that, which has happened.
Oh, we actually bidded this out to somebody else, so you need to update that.
That's what's really complicated on the show I'm on now, because they have all these secondary post-viz vendors, and they are hoping that because we pulled the XRs and they had those to work with instead of QuickTimes, that maybe they might even final the shot and it doesn't need to go to the vendor it's supposed to be assigned to do the actual shot.
I wanted to know too, we've met people and we are friends with people who kind of they switch back and forth between VFX editing and assistant editing, VFX editing, assistant editing. Do you know why? Like, are there a lot of similar skills or tasks, I guess, that make them such like compatible to go back and forth with? Or is it, you think it's just a preference thing?
I think in theory, most visual effects editors started off as assistant editors. So they have those skills. But I can tell you from experience that if you don't use those skills for a while because you're using your visual effects skills,
Or vice versa.
you conveniently forget those things. You don't have the bandwidth to keep it all in your head, updated all the time. And in fact, I don't know how assistant editors turn over reels for sound anymore. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to know because I got enough.
We got a whole episode on that for you.
Yeah.
I got enough going on in my head about, I've been lucky because ever since I became a visual effects editor, I've never had to go back. And I feel like people only go back if they need to. They need to make money. They need to stay employed. They need to get their, hours.
Right.
Yeah. Because I personally can't see any reason to go back once you become a visual effects editor if you can stay employed as a visual effects editor.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, like,
The skills do overlap.
Okay, because I know, like you said, I know that there was a handful of VFX editors that were assistant editors prior.
Yep.
I'm wondering if
We all were.
now it's just a rhetorical question of, I wonder if that's just because like VFX just became so big in the past. Like,
Well,
20 years, if
was.
that's why.
Do you remember when we were on the Batman?
Yeah.
There weren't enough visual effects editors go around. Like I kept getting calls when we were getting towards the end, and I was supposed to work on Guardians 3, and they don't pay that well. But the thing about it is you keep getting pushed from one show to the next. So you're consistently employed. But anyway, I think that if visual effects editors were in need of work, many of them wouldn't think twice about, working
Doing
as a second or a first even. Not that a first is below a visual effects editor. Anybody who's listening to this, who I'm friends with, who's a first, I'm not saying.
I mean, I would say like they are just hierarchically. A first oftentimes really has no clue what's going on in visual effects editorial in terms of scheduling and meetings and all that stuff.
Sometimes that's true.
It's more or less.
And why should they waste? Again, why should they use their bandwidth for that when
every film I've ever been on, the first has always been like, VFX editorial, I trust you guys. You guys are doing what you guys do. Let me know if you need any help. And that's basically the end of it's like, how can we collaborate? Oh, the first is telling the VFX editor, the editor may, the editor worked on reels 1, 3, and 5 today. And that may be the extent of their relationship for like most of a movie.
Yes. It would be great if the first could always tell the visual effects editor, guess what? They just went through this scene. You might want to check it because I think some things have changed. But they have other things on their mind, so they're not, they really need one person who's constantly going through the cut and saying, oh, this changed. I better tell the visual effects editors. Yeah. If only,
In an ideal world.
In an ideal world, yes. Because, sometimes they make changes they don't ever tell us.
I'm curious because I'm sure you know more about the new rules with the new classification and all that stuff. If you were talking to a post PA or somebody just interested in post, they want to be in the cutting room in general. How would that person break into visual effects editorial? And then kind of secondarily, almost like on a philosophical level, what kind of character traits would that person should they have in order for them to be successful at this job?
We have a PA on our show now. And, I told him that if he wants to get into it, he should try breaking down my comps that I did in the Avid and see what he can do with them.
So someone who's ready to like get dirty with the comps in Avid.
Yeah, that's the first. Well, see, here's the thing. A lot of visual effects editors, they don't use the Avid plugins.
Well, that's going to be my next question was, you said the Avid. You haven't moved to After Effects as your main compositor?
No, I never did. And you want to know why? Because way back when, I thought if I need to work outside of the Avid, then it's not my job anymore. It should be a post-viz person's job or an in-house artist. And so far, I've been able to hack whatever I need together with using some After Effects or a lot of Photoshop to make plates. But I've been able to do what I need to do in the Avid. I almost didn't get a job once because I didn't work in After Effects. And I said, well, I don't work in After Effects, but nobody's ever complained. And I got the job anyway. And there was one scene where the editor came in and said, the director actually used After Effects. He said, director's doing this shot in the girl in the closet. If you want to try it in the Avid, give it a shot. And so I did it. I did exactly what he wanted. And the director came in and he looked at it and he said, you did this in the Avid? I said, yeah. He said, are you like the only one that can do this in the Avid? I said, well, there might be one or two other people, but you can hack together whatever you need to hack together for a screening, for, just to get a sense of timing, which is what our job is supposed to be, put it together so we can get a sense of timing, or fix this because we didn't really shoot it to do this, but can you make it do this? That's something I'm really good at, is I'm pretty good at manipulating the actual shot footage to do something other than it was shot for.
So this kind of like problem-solving mentality, you would say in general, is like a cornerstone of
if
you were interested in this career, like if you're not interested in problem-solving these kinds of things visually, like, and you're more interested.
It's creative problem-solving, because in this movie, again, that I'm on now, like there's a lot of magic, but we didn't see a lot of post-viz about what that magic's supposed to look like. So I'm guessing, a lot of times. And I go over the top. Better to go over the top and then say, well, pull it back a little bit.
Well, I guess it's also good because you have to enjoy comping and doing all of that, because there are some people who are like, I can't sit the whole 8 hours a day, like keyframing out something. And so I think that's true. Definitely important.
There are visual effects editors who don't comp.
Okay.
They're just really good at the bookkeeping side of it. And that's important too. And a lot of editors don't ask for comps from their VFX editors, or they may be in a situation where their first actually is good in, After Effects or whatever, can do comping. And they don't even ask the VFX editor to comp.
I like comping. It's always, whenever I have free time, it's always my favorite thing to do on a show. If I've like done stuff, I'll go chat with the VFX editor. And I'll be like,
do you mess with the plugins in the Avid?
I do everything in After Effects. I mean, that's one of the, this is the number one thing I've gotten in arguments with people about in post. It's always because the main thing I've heard is exactly what you've said, which is the moment you leave the Avid, by proxy of that, really is no longer your job. You're doing something that's no longer your job.
It also makes it a little bit more complicated sometimes to turn over. Or
if you're doing something in After Effects. I mean, I'll try to do it if I can do it in the Avid, but if you're doing something in After Effects, if for whatever reason you're sick or some other assistant editor or some other VFX editor, whoever has to make a change to that comp, then they have to figure out your completely proprietary way that you set up your After Effects or find your After Effects project wherever the hell you saved it.
When Derek and I work together, Derek works in After Effects and he's great in After Effects. And, I told him I do everything in the Avid, and he sort of started trying to do everything in the Avid. And I said, you can do it in After Effects as long as you know what you've done when we have to go turn the shot over. So if there's a situation like that on that movie, we inherited a bunch of stuff from another good visual effects editor, but he was the one in London. And we had no idea how he did some of the comps, or I didn't anyway. And then you just have to try to rebuild them.
Using the assets and the parts that you need to send to the vendors.
So
just to circle back to my earlier question, if there's an aspiring assistant editor out there that wants to get into visual effects editorial today, how do you think, like, let's say they are readily employed on movies as an apprentice or an assistant or whatever, and they're interested in visual effects editorial, what would you tell that person to learn?
I would tell them to ask the visual effects editors if they can help. Because as long as they're staying under the 50% per day, they can do whatever they want. The visual effects editor can say, hey, can you do this simple blue screen shot for me? But you're never going to get anywhere unless you ask. Most visual effects editors I know want to teach people everything they know.
I've never met a visual effects editor that didn't want me to sit with them and learn how their code book worked.
I told the PA on our show that I want to see some comps before the end of the show.
And you can't, and as a PA, that was a thing too. I mean, that when I was a PA on Don't Look Up, I did a lot of visual effects work on that show because I technically wasn't allowed to touch the Avid.
Right.
But there was no rules about me touching in After Effects. I had my own laptop with a copy of After Effects on it. And so they were like, as long as you're not doing anything in the Avid, like, we're not breaking any rules. So I got to do a lot of work on the movie by doing that.
I'll tell you, if I was going to do it all over again, I would learn After Effects only because a lot of times there are things I know what I want to do, but I can't figure out how to do it with the plugins I have. Usually I can get there somehow, but I know it would probably be a lot easier in After Effects.
Are there any Avid plugins you recommend people? I don't know that.
Well, I like all the Boris.
The Boris effects stuff.
And the Sapphire effects are good.
Yes.
Yep.
The problem with those on a lower budget show is that every Avid has to have them.
Yeah, for it to.
Because if they get unrendered, they get a big X.
I've done a lot of comps on this one.
Are you doing them in After Effects or Avid?
I'm doing them in Avid. So the reason that I also would rather do Avid over After Effects is simply because of the change. Like, if you ever need to make a change in your comp, you have to like export it out again and pull it back in. Like, it's just so...
It's quicker.
And you can see, because I might bring the shot into After Effects, but I might want to look at it in context. So I might have to line up something with the plate behind it. And so it's just a lot easier for me to do it in Avid and then just like collapse it if I'm taking up too many tracks.
And you know what? I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm still learning. I never took any lessons in Photoshop. Whatever I know how to do in Photoshop is just from messing with it. The second in Cape Town on this movie showed me how to use a BCC plugin for rotoing and for taking the blue out. I'm like, oh my God, where has this plugin been all my life? Like, I can't believe that I'm just learning about this now. It's called Prime Matte Studio.
And it takes out whatever like kind of color you need.
Magically takes the blue out. And then in the same plugin, you can roto, but it's in Mocha. So it's more like After Effects. It's much easier roto to deal with than the Animat.
Right. Yeah. Well, you just mentioned Cape Town for
Yes.
this project. How long were you in Cape Town for?
2.5 months.
I know that you've probably traveled for like other shows as well.
Yes.
What is it like to have a family and have to be away for extended periods of time?
Yeah, it's tough. And on most shows, they've at least come to visit once.
I was going to ask if do they ever come with you for the full time or they really just visit?
They not for the full time. When the family was smaller and it was just Tara and one child, yeah, they came to Sydney, that was on Son of the Mask, and I like barely had any time off.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Thankfully, she had lived in Sydney for 6 years, so
So she
didn't need me to be around. But that's the problem when they come to visit is you're still working.
Right.
So they've always come to visit, except for Cape Town. Yeah. That was too far. It's a lot easier with FaceTime now.
Yeah.
Than it used to be.
Because your wife also does the same.
We met on a movie.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
We met on Reign of Fire in Ireland.
What position was she?
She was the travel and accommodations coordinator. And I later found out that her dad was also the producer on the movie. But that's not why I was attracted to her. Actually, funny story. Before I left for Ireland, the production office called me, and it wasn't her, but the production office called me and asked me if I wanted a 1 or 2 bedroom flat. And I told them to, just in case I had family that visited. And they said, "Is there anything else you want?" And I said, "Thatch roof cottage by the sea." And there was a long pause, and I said, "What? Isn't that all you have there?" So guess where I spent the first 6 weeks? In a hotel. Smart ass American. And I always blame her for it because she was the travel and accommodations coordinator.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like her fault. Yeah, sounds like her fault.
Did your wife still work in film?
She works for a production company. They do mostly commercials.
Does she understand your job and everything, though?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it helps that her dad was a producer. So she grew up.
Born and raised in the film.
Yes.
mold.
Yeah. So they try to come and visit.
Yes.
Whenever they can.
And the kids have, there's things that I have missed, unfortunately. Whether it be a football game or, I don't know, parent-teacher conference. But we try to make up for it. When they come visit, they get to see and do a lot of cool things that other kids don't get to do, like walking through the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, meeting J.J. Abrams.
Meeting J.J. Abrams or actors once in a while. So, and now one of them's going into film, so.
Oh, yeah.
Must have had some influence there.
Our last question that we'd normally like to ask people now, it's our new shtick, is asking people what is a dream movie or dream television show or dream project you'd like to work on still before the end of your career. Anything. A book that hasn't been adapted or it's been adapted or a remake, anything you want.
You didn't tell me this.
Anything comes to mind.
I'll tell you, when I was on Vertical Limit, I really wanted to work on Lord of the Rings. That was...
Yeah.
I don't know if I have that desire as much anymore, but I love those movies. God, I don't know. And well, it's funny that you asked me this because a job opportunity came up since I've been on this show. It was a big movie, and my son and my wife said, "Well, how can you not pursue it?" I said, "Well, I like the people I'm working with." And she said, "It's a great career opportunity." And I said, "At this point, what's most important to me is that I like the people I'm working with and I'm getting paid what I'm worth. And I don't know if it's worth burning bridges to go onto this other show."
Yeah, I think one of the first pieces of advice that I got was from a friend of the pod, Esther, who told me the best shows should have great people, a great script, and great pay. And you normally only get 2 of those things. And if you get 2 of those things, that's a show that's worth staying on.
Yeah. And I feel like I have pretty close to 3 of those on this one.
It's hard to give that up. All right, our final
little segment.
Splice and spew.
I started a new show. I feel like I could rave about that. It's a good show that I am enjoying. My girlfriend turned me on to it. It's called Pantheon, and it's on Netflix. and it's tremendously solid. And I only bring it up because it's the kind of show that I read the synopsis of it and I was like, I would like this show. I can't believe my girlfriend would like this show, which is like, it's all about Silicon Valley and it's animated. And it's about like a tech company that does, I won't spoil the premise of it, but it's like a tech company that's doing, destructive things around AI, and this girl whose dad worked for this tech company died under mysterious circumstances and is kind of discovering this company. What's great about it exclusively that I am really enjoying it is a lot of the characters in the show. I can't believe I'd never heard of the show until she brought it up to me.
This is an HBO Max show, right?
No, it's on Netflix now. It was AMC.
Okay.
It's very fun because it's all set in California. And so it's all set in these places I know, especially my hometown. They have all these places in Silicon Valley that they're constantly referencing. And it's so weird. For one, I know like Silicon Valley is such a predominant place in people's imaginations, but it's like this was like my local elementary school and stuff that they're like, we have to go to Santa Clara. And I'm like, oh, I played soccer games there. Like, and they're doing, but it's set in this very like dark dystopian kind of edgy thing. It's a very solid TV show. If you aren't really into animated shows, I understand, but I would say give it a try. It's very solid. It's not like a kid's show. It's very adult, and it's not, I feel like a lot of animated shows nowadays are like very tongue in cheek, like they're animated and they always have a comedy edge to it. This is not comedic at all. It's very serious, but I don't want to explain really why it's animated. That was my first question, was like, why is the show animated? Like, why was the script thought to be animated? And that doesn't really get into to the later episodes, but it is a very tremendously solid show. So I'll give a simple, not video game, not politics, Pantheon on Netflix is pretty solid. It's pretty good.
Love it.
And it's done. I think all the seasons are out, so you can watch the whole thing now. There's no waiting for stuff to come out.
Cool. I am going to splice about this little trick that my boyfriend's mom gave me. If you have a tub that you need to clean and you hate cleaning the tubs, clean one wall every time you shower. And it was amazing. Listen, it's so much easier to clean the bathtub while you're showering than to try to do it while you're not and reaching into the tub and trying to
You just figured this out?
I just figured this out.
This has never dawned on me once that you could do these activities at the same time.
It never dawned on me. Did it dawn on you?
No, never.
Until
I've
now.
always been like, you shower or you're clean. You never
right?
do the same thing. I guess you could just bring the cleaning supplies
Exactly.
in when you shower.
Okay, you guys need to increase your multitasking skills.
I mean, definitely, but I found this out.
One of these days I'll figure out how to do laundry and editing at the same time.
Exactly. I am just, I did it and I was like, man, I got to splice about this.
Do you have to leave the house to do laundry?
No, I have a laundry machine. Well, I used to. I used to have to go to a laundry room, and that was like a whole thing. Because you gotta but now I have a laundry machine at home. That changes everything. But
So my splice is about giving young people a tip if they hate to clean the bathroom when they're not showering, and you get all you gotta bend over, you gotta get in the shower, then you get all wet, and then all of the water from the shower that's dripping, maybe the floor is all wet. Now you're standing in wet water with either socks or bare feet, and your clothes are all... Anyway, it's just a lot easier.
Revolutionizing people's lives.
I'm telling you, it's revolutionary. Clearly, Marty has heard of this before, so... or he does it. And so I'm not the first one, but I just wanted to splice about that little tip, that little life tip that may or may not help you in your everyday life.
Cassidy, do you want to do your Cassidy corner before we go to Marty?
I'm gonna splice about recently one of my coworkers had a birthday and she's really into Taco Bell. So we got a giant Taco Bell platter, and for the cake, instead of a cake, we put a bunch of candles in a collection of those crunchy cinnamon things that are like Cheetos, but they're crunchy. And those little donuts, they have these little donut holes that are filled with vanilla pudding. And my splice is just every time I walked by, I grabbed another one. They're a little addictive, those ones. Watch out.
We don't do enough spews on this show. We're normally pretty positive. I feel like
all of mine are usually spews.
I feel like I'm only I should be more spewy.
Okay, I got one.
All
You got a
right.
spew? Give us a good spew.
And it's a silly, stupid little thing, but it aggravates me every time it happens. Have you ever had, especially in the cutting room, craft service, those little packages of dried seaweed?
Yes.
And have you ever, while you're working, you're eating them, and why are they so small? Why? I mean, they're only 25 calories in the first place. Why couldn't they be 50 and be twice as big? Instead, you have to open up a second pack. It's annoying. In fact, when it happened the other day, I texted my coworker and I said, "Why are these seaweed trays so small?" I know,
So
it's
this
silly,
video is
but
about let's have more seaweed. I thought you were going to talk about the oil.
the oil's
oil
bad
gets
too.
everywhere.
Yes, yeah. Well, it depends on which one you get. The oil, gets all over the keyboard. That's bad too.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to our episode of Sips and Clips. You can find us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod, and you can also email us at sipsandclipspod@gmail.com. Am I missing anything, Michael?
No, Lian, I think you need to keep on sipping.
While we keep on clipping. Bye.
Bye-bye. Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Lian McFalls and Michael Schusterman. Logo designed by Mike Knoll. Production sound by Cassidy Lagan. Post-production sound by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod or email us at sipsandclipspod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.